Hello po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Emiline Enovejas at ang topic na i-discuss ko ngayon ay reversal of impairment loss and impairment of cash generating units. So dahil natapos nang i-discuss ang impairment loss and new depreciation, ngayon naman ang i-discuss ko ay reversal of impairment loss. Under ng reversal of impairment loss ay merong dalawang model, which is cost model and revaluation model. So, makikita natin dito yung formula ng dalawang model. Ano nga ba ang pinagkaiba ng cost model and revaluation model? Increase in value. So, dito natin malalaman ang pinagkaiba ng cost model and revaluation model sa pag-increase ng value ng asset. Ang general rule is kapag under cost model, without previous impairment, do not record the increase. So kapag under ng cost model, hindi dapat i-record ang pag-increase ng asset. So parang hindi mo lang siya papansinin o hayaan mo lang. Ito, hindi mo siya dapat i-record. Pero sa revaluation model, without previous impairment, record the increase without limit as revaluation surplus. So kung sa cost model, hindi mo dapat i-record yung pag-increase ng value ng asset. Sa revaluation model naman, i-record mo yung pag-increase ng value without limit. And yung pag-increase na yon or income na yon is i-record yun as revaluation surplus. Ito yung general rule natin. Pero meron tong exception. What if merong previous impairment? So, under ng cost model with previous impairment, record the increase with limit as gain on reversal. So, sabi dito kapag with previous impairment daw siya, i-record yung increase ng asset as gain on reversal. Pero, with limit siya. While sa revaluation model naman, pag may previous impairment, i-record yung pag-increase na yun ng asset as gain on reversal and revaluation surplus. So, ayun yung pinagkaiba ng cost model and revaluation model. Pero ngayon, ang pagpo-focusan muna natin is cost model with previous impairment and record the increase with limit as gain on reversal. So, ito muna yung i-focus natin ngayon. Reversal of impairment loss. So, dito makikita natin reversal limit, gain, and carrying amount. So, ang gagawin mo dito, kukunin mo yung carrying amount. And yung carrying amount na tinutukoy dito is yung kung magkano ang naka-record sa time ng pag-reverse. Ngayon, itataas mo nga yung carrying amount na yun sa reversal limit. At kung magkano ang itinaas, that will be the gain on reversal. Pero with limit yun. So, kailangan mo na dumaan dun sa carrying amount na kung saan nangyari ang impairment. And from that point, magkakaroon ng new depreciation. Then, saka ka lang makatuloy dun sa carrying amount at the time of reversal. So, other explanation dito is, for example, bumili ka ng PPE and nagkaroon ng reverse. Pero bago ka makatuloy dun sa from carrying amount nung pagbili mo ng PPE to carrying amount ng pag-reverse, dadaan ka muna dun sa carrying amount of impairment dahil nagkaroon dun ng new depreciation. So, yung carrying amount nung pagbili mo ng PPE is hindi siya same dun sa carrying amount nung nag-reverse dahil nga nagkaroon ng new depreciation. So, next. So, ito naman yung formula ng gain on reversal. So, reversal limit less carrying amount on reversal. And yan, saka natin makakuha yung gain on reversal. Pero, ayun nga, hindi madali kunin itong dalawang to. Yan. Pero, unahin muna natin yung computein yung carrying amount on reversal. So, Meron tayong 3 objectives dito para makuha natin yung gain on reversal. So, una kunin muna natin yung impairment. Then, kunin muna natin yung impairment. Tapos, new depreciation. And then, para makuha natin yung gain on reversal. So, yan. Ngayon, umpisa natin sa impairment. Kunin mo ng impairment para makuha natin ang carrying amount after impairment. Yung carrying amount kasi, nung date na nag-impair, hindi yun ang same carrying amount nung date of reversal. Dahil nga patuloy na nagde-depreciate yung asset. So, pero ang depreciation na ibabawas natin ay ang new depreciation na. So, itong new depreciation dito is, ayan, yun na yung ibabawas natin dito sa carrying amount at reversal date. Bakit? Dahil nagkaroon nga ng impairment. So, yung impairment ng time yung impairment dito, hindi na siya same dun sa impairment ng reversal date dahil nga nagkaroon ng new depreciation. So, ayan. So, sa impairment, syempre carrying amount less recoverable amount, saka natin makuha yung impairment loss. Ayan. Then, pag nakuha na natin yung impairment loss, eto yan. Pag nakuha na natin yung impairment loss, so makakompute na rin natin ang carrying amount after impairment. So, cost, less accumulated depreciation, less accumulated impairment loss, and saka lalabas dyan yung carrying amount after impairment. So, dito, ayan, ito naman ngayon, yung carrying amount after impairment, i-divide yan ngayon dun sa remaining life. And saka ngayon magkakaroon ng new depreciation. So, itong new depreciation na ito, yun naman ang magagamit natin na depreciation sa pagkuha natin ng carrying amount at reversal date. So, carrying amount after impairment less subsequent depreciation, lalabas ngayon ang carrying amount at reversal date. So, matatry natin yan mamaya sa example. Ayun, so, diba, nakuha na natin so, pag nakuha na natin tong carrying amount on reversal, ngayon, ang kukunin naman natin is yung reversal limit. So, ang reversal limit kasi, ito rin yung new recoverable amount. Bakit? Dahil yung recoverable amount nung time na nag-impair is hindi na siya same na recoverable amount nung time ng reversal. So, in other words, yung recoverable amount ng impairment is iba na dun sa recoverable amount nung nag-reverse. Kaya ang tawag sa kanya is new recoverable amount. So, yun. Fair value less cost of disposal versus value in use. Kung anong mas mataas sa kanila. So, yan. Next is, pag nakuha natin itong new recoverable amount, ngayon naman is, i-compare natin siya sa carrying amount as if. So, yan. Carrying amount as if. Ibig sabihin nitong as if is as if na walang nangyaring impairment, as if na hindi na bago yung depreciation dahil sa impairment. So, kaano lang yung naka-record sa books mo nun? Kumbaga, carrying amount siya na kung walang nangyaring impairment. So, ang computation natin dito is cost less accumulated depreciation as if no impairment. So, lalabas na dyan ang carrying amount as if. And dahil nga sa rule sa conservatism, so syempre, pipiliin natin dyan ang lower. So ngayon ay meron tayong problem solving. On January 1, 2017, Lugaw Company purchased equipment with cost of 8 million, useful life of 5 years, and no residual value. So dito nagbigay dito sa problem yung recoverable amount nila. Ayan. For the year 2017 and for the year 2018. So value less cost of disposal and value in use. So ang question dito, what is the impairment loss for 2017 and how much is the reversal limit? So this is the step-by-step solution. Siyempre, para malaman natin ang impairment loss, kunin muna natin ang carrying amount at impairment date. So, cost na 8 million less accumulated depreciation na 1,600,000. So, paano nakuha yung 1,600,000? So, ito, yung 8 million dinivide sa 5 years, which is the useful life, and times 1. Kaya 1 kasi 1 year lang naman yung time na from the time na binili yung asset and from sa time na nag-impair. So 1 year lang yun. January 1 and December 31, 2017. So niless siya, kaya nakuha natin ang carrying amount at impairment na carrying amount at impairment na 6,400,000. So, dahil nakuha na natin itong 6,400,000 and meron na tayong carrying amount at impairment. So, dito, i-compute naman natin first yung impairment loss. Carrying amount at impairment nga na 6,400,000, ilaless yung recoverable amount na 5,700,000. And yung total neto is 700,000. So, paano nakuha tong recoverable amount? Ayan. So, balikan natin. Ayan, diba? Given dito yung recoverable amount. Fair value less cost of disposal versus value in use. So, anong mas mataas sa kanilang dalawa? Diba, value in use. Kaya, yun yung gagamitin natin. 5,700,000. So, yun yung ginamit dito. 5,700,000. So, nilas natin, kaya ang ating impairment loss ay 700,000. Next. Next is carrying amount after impairment. So, na-compute na natin ang ating impairment loss. So, cost less accumulated depreciation less accumulated impairment, which is yung kanina na 700,000. Total yan is carrying amount after impairment na 5,700,000. And itong 5,700,000 yung carrying amount after impairment, and i-divide natin ngayon siya dun sa remaining life na 4 years. Bakit 4 years? Dahil yung 5 years na useful life, na-compute na natin doon, na-less na natin yung 1 year. Yung 1 year na depreciation. Kaya 4 years na lang yung remaining life. So, ang total niyan is 1,425,000, which is ito din yung ating new depreciation. So, ngayon, compute naman natin ang carrying amount at reversal date. So, carrying amount nung December 31, 2017 is, ayan, 5,700,000. Less subsequent depreciation, which is ito nga, na 1,425,000. Total niyan is 4,275,000, which is ito rin yung carrying amount at reversal date. Ngayon, nakuha na natin ang carrying amount at reversal. Iko-compute naman natin itong sa reversal limit. So, paano nga ba nakuha itong 4,800,000 na reversal limit? So, ito yung kanyang computation. So, di ba nga kanina, kukunin natin yung new recoverable amount, which is nung December 31, 2018. So, nandun yan sa problem kanina. Balikan natin. Ayan. So, ayan. Ito yung ito na ngayon yung new recoverable amount. Ito. So, 5,500,000 versus 5,100,000. Anong mas mataas dyan? Siyempre, itong 5,500,000 na fair value less cost of disposal. Kaya, yun yung ginamit natin. Yan. So, ito yung ginamit natin, yung recoverable amount. Pero, hindi pa yan yun. Iko-compare pa natin siya sa carrying amount as if. Yan, yung cost natin na 8 million less accumulated depreciation as if no impairment. Itong 3,200,000, ibig sabihin 3,200,000, ibig sabihin yan yung depreciation kung wala lang sanang nangyaring impairment. So, 8 million less 3,200,000. Sorry, 3,200,000 to. Equals to 4,800,000. Yun yung ating carrying amount as if. Pero, ang rules nga, diba? Kung ano yung mas mababa. Yan, reversal limit, whichever is lower. So, anong mas mababa dito sa dalawa? Syempre, mas mababa yung 4,800,000. Kaya, yun yung ginamit natin sa pagkuha ng reversal limit. Kaya, 4,800,000 less 4,275,000 is equal to gain on reversal na 525,000. So, yan. Ito na, sagutan na natin yung tanong kanina. First is, what is the impairment loss for 2017? Balikan natin yung na-compute natin kaninang impairment loss. Yan, 700,000. So, answer dyan is 700,000. Letter A. Next is, number 2 pala to. 1 yung nalagay ko. This is number 2. How much is the reversal limit? So, balikan ulit natin yung na-compute natin kanina. Ayan. So, ang ating reversal limit ay ito, 4,800,000. So, the answer dito sa number 2, how much is the reversal limit? Letter D, 4,800,000. Yan, ngayon ay dahil tapos na natin pag-usapan ang reversal of impairment loss, pag-uusapan naman natin ang cash generating unit or CGU. CGU is the smallest group of asset that generates independent cash flow from continuing use. So, ito daw yung group of asset na nag-generate independently ng cash flow. For example, nito ay si Jollibee. Kunwari, binili ni Jollibee si Red Ribbon. So, si Red Ribbon, meron siyang mga sariling asset. Meron siyang, meron yung ginagamit ni Red Ribbon na mga assets niya. is hindi naman nanggagaling kay Jollibee, which means kayang magpatuloy ng operation ni Red Ribbon kahit na wala si Jollibee. Kaya tinawag din na independent. So, ibig sabihin, si Red Ribbon, nakapag-generate siya ng cash flow independently. So, yun yung the smallest group yon, which is, yun nga yung cash generating unit. And, ang CGU daw is impaired kapag yung carrying amount ay mas mataas sa recoverable amount. So, kung yung recoverable amount ni CGU ay mas mababa, ibig sabihin ay impaired. Impairment is computed as a group then allocated to each asset belong to the CGU. So, i-compute natin as a group yung impairment and then saka natin siya i-allocate dun sa each asset na belong sa CGU. So, cash generating unit. Ito naman yung step-by-step computation natin sa impairment ng CGU. So, ayan. Step 1, compute the carrying amount of the whole CGU. So, yun lang. I-compute natin yung carrying amount ng whole CGU. Hindi kasama dito yung payable. So, ito lang na mga asset. Step 2, compute the recoverable amount of the whole CGU. Fair value less cost of disposal and value in use. So, alam naman na natin to, diba? Next is step 3, compute the amount of impairment of full CGU. So, dito, kukompute natin yung kukompute na natin yung impairment loss. So, di ba nga, nakompute na natin yung carrying amount of full CGU. And then, yung recoverable amount ng whole CGU. Ito. Yung nasa step 2. Ayan. Yung difference nila, yun yung impairment loss ng whole CGU. Then, step 4. So, yun nga, diba, i-compute muna natin yung impairment ng whole, saka natin i-allocate. So, allocate first the impairment to goodwill. And goodwill. So, ang unang-una na pag-allocate natin ng impairment is si goodwill. Then, saka natin i-compute yung remaining impairment sa iba namang asset. So, ililess muna natin kay goodwill yung impairment loss ng whole CGU, then lalabas na dito yung remaining impairment after allocation. So, after first allocation. So, kapag na-compute na natin tong remaining impairment after first allocation, punta na tayo sa step 5, which is allocate second the impairment to obviously impaired asset. So, yan. Ito naman yung obviously impaired asset. Ito yung may given na recoverable amount. So, carrying amount of obviously impaired less recoverable amount. So, yun yung allocated impairment sa obvious. So, pag na-compute na natin yung allocated impairment sa obvious, yung remaining impairment nung after first, ililess natin siya ngayon dun sa allocated impairment dun sa obvious. Saka natin makakompute yung remaining impairment after second. So, first priority natin is yung goodwill. Second priority naman is yung obviously impaired asset. Then, the last step, allocate lastly the impairment to the remaining asset prorated to their carrying amount. So, tandaan natin na excluding na dito yung goodwill. And excluded na dito yung goodwill, obviously impaired asset. Asset not stated. Asset not stated impaired, and cash. So, ito yung apat na hindi na natin isasama. Remaining impairment after first and second allocation, ito times yan sa carrying amount of individual asset divided by total carrying amount of remaining asset and equals to allocated impairment. So, yan, ma-apply na natin dito yung step-by-step computation ng impairment of CGU. So, first problem, at year-end, bubble company believed that the asset of a cash-generating unit are impaired. So, binigay dito yung asset and liabilities ng CGU at carrying amount. So, cash, accounts receivable, allowance for doubtful accounts, inventory, PPE, accumulated depreciation, goodwill, and accounts payable. The entity determined that the value in use of the cash-generating unit is 30 million. So, given na yung recoverable amount. Then, the accounts receivable are considered collectible except those considered doubtful. So, yung accounts receivable daw is hindi na siya impaired kasi considered collectible na siya. Yan. Yan na. Step 1. Compute the carrying amount of the whole CGU. So, ito na yung whole CGU nila. Hindi naman kasama yung accounts payable. Total carrying amount is 36 million. Next is step 2. Compute the recoverable amount of the whole CGU. 31 million. Bakit? Kasi given naman na siya. So, wala na tayong pagkukumparahan kasi sinabi na dito na yung value in use niya is 31 million pala ito. Yan. Na-typo lang. 31 million. 31 M. 31 yan. So, 31 million yung recoverable amount ng whole CGU. Next is step 3. Compute the amount of impairment of whole CGU. Nakuha na natin yung kanina, nakuha na natin yung carrying amount ng whole CGU, given na rin yung recoverable amount, which is 31 million. Ngayon, makakuha naman natin yung impairment loss of whole CGU, which is 5 million. Next, step 4. Allocate first the impairment to goodwill, then compute the remaining impairment. So, dahil nakuha na natin yung impairment loss ng whole CGU, i-allocate na natin siya sa each asset. So, ano nga ulit yung first priority natin dito is yung goodwill. So, siya muna yung ibabawas natin. So, ito, impairment loss less goodwill, total of 3 million. So, ito na yung natira. After ibawas si goodwill, may natira pang 3 million. Next is step 5. So, dahil wala namang binigay na obviously impaired asset, so wala tayong obviously impaired asset. So, 0 siya. Then, 3 million pa rin yung remaining impairment after second dahil nga 0 yung ating obviously impaired asset. So, in short, wala tayong obviously impaired asset. Next. Step 6. Allocate lastly the impairment to the remaining asset. So, di ba ang sabi dito, hindi na natin isasama yung goodwill kasi na-less na natin siya. Hindi rin isasama yung obviously impaired. And hindi na rin isasama yung assets stated not impaired, which is yung kanina na accounts receivable. Di ba sabi doon, collectible naman siya. Kaya ibig sabihin, hindi siya impaired. And lastly, cash. Hindi na rin natin isasama yung cash. So, ano lang yung kasama? Inventory lang and yung property, plant, and equipment. So, yung remaining ito, yung remaining impairment after second, i-times mo siya dun sa itong 6 million. 6 million. Ito yung value nung inventory. Dinivide siya dun sa value ng inventory plus property, plant, and equipment less accumulated depreciation. So, yung 4 million is accumulated, yung 4 million accumulated depreciation. So, ang total niyan is 0.24. Tinimes natin siya sa 3 million. Kaya, ang allocated sa ating inventory ay 720,000. Next is the remaining impairment after first allocation na 3 million times 0.76. Total of 2,280,000. Yun naman yung allocated sa property, plant, and equipment. So, balikan lang natin yung formula sa step 6. Ayan. Sabi dito, remaining impairment after first and second allocation times dun sa carrying amount ng individual asset. Kanina, carrying amount ni inventory or carrying amount ni PPE, then dinivide natin dun sa total carrying amount nung remaining. Diba, inad natin and nilas din natin yung depreciation. Then, yun yung magiging allocated impairment na nila. So, ayan. Balikan natin dito. So, ito yung carrying amount each. So, ito yung 6 million carrying amount ng inventory. And yung 23 million less 4 million net carrying amount naman ni property, plant, and equipment. So, 23 minus 4 million is 19 million. So, dinivide lang siya dun sa para sila ng denominator, which is ito. Dinivide lang siya dun. Kaya makukuha natin yung decimal nila, which is 24 and 0.76. So, yan. So, ito na yung answer natin. So, unang tanong, what is the impairment loss on goodwill? So, na-compute natin to kanina. Impairment loss on goodwill, magkano ngayon? Ang answer dyan is letter D, 2 million. Kasi 2 million yung goodwill and nilas na siya lahat dun sa impairment loss ng whole CGU. So, ito siya. Balikan lang natin. Ayan. Ito yung impairment loss ng goodwill. Kaya 2 million yung sagot. Next is, what is the impairment loss on inventory? So, ito kaka-compute lang natin, diba? Impairment loss on inventory is ito. 720,000. Answer is letter D, 720,000. Third is, what is the impairment loss on property, plant, and equipment? Yan, na-compute na rin natin, which is ito, allocated to property, plant, and equipment na 2,280,000. Answer is Answer is letter B, 2,280,000. Last problem. Ito naman, titingnan naman natin what if may obviously impaired asset. Kasi kanina, diba, wala. So, Samsung Tech has determined that one of its CGU is impaired. The assets of the CGU at carrying amount are, ayan, binigay yung mga carrying amount na asset. So, sabi dito, the recoverable amount daw is 7 million. So, ayan, given na rin dito yung recoverable amount. Pero, merong binigay na recoverable amount ng isang asset, which is the equipment. Which means, ito rin yung obviously impaired asset. So, once na binigay yung recoverable amount ng isang asset, it means that obviously impaired siya, which is 2,100,000. So, di ba, ito yung carrying amount ng equipment. Tapos, yung recoverable niya is mas mababa. So, obviously impaired siya. Yan. So, question, how much is the impairment loss that should be allocated to equipment? And how much is the carrying amount of the building after allocation of the impairment loss? Sasagutan natin yan. Step 1 again. So, add lang ulit yung carrying amount ng whole CGU, total of 10,400,000. Step 2, yun lang, compute natin yung recoverable amount. Given naman na siya, which is 7 million nga. Step 3, compute the amount of impairment of full CGU. So, 10,400,000 less yung 7 million. Ito yung impairment loss ng whole CGU. 3,400,000. Step 4. So, nakuha na natin impairment loss, diba? So, ito na siya. Ililes na natin ang goodwill. So, first na ililes natin si goodwill, which is 1,200,000. Total of 2,200,000. Total of remaining of 2,200,000. Nung niles na natin si goodwill, may natira pa tayong 2,200,000. Next is allocate second. Ito na, meron na tayong allocate second the impairment to obviously impaired asset. Meron na tayong obviously impaired asset na binigay, diba? Yung equipment. So, 2,200,000 yung carrying amount na equipment. Kaso, ang recoverable niya na lang ay 2,100,000. Kaya ang total na lang ni equipment, ang impairment na allocated kay equipment ay 100,000. Next is, yung remaining impairment after first, yung kanina yun, yung kay goodwill na 2,200,000, less itong 100,000. So, ang total ngayon, after ng impairment after second is 2,100,000. Next is step 6. Allocate lastly the impairment to the remaining asset prorated to their carrying amount. So, excluded na dito yung goodwill kasi nales na natin. Excluded na rin dito yung obviously impaired na equipment, nales na rin natin. Cash, hindi na rin kasama. And yung mga asset na stated na hindi naman impaired. So, di na yun kasama yung apat na yun. So, ano-ano na lang yung natira? Machinery, building, and furnitures, and fixtures. So, ayun, yung kagaya lang din kanina, diba yung remaining impairment? So, pare-pares lang naman sila ng remaining impairment. Ayan. And yung computation natin kanina, itong carrying amount ni machinery, i-divide natin siya dun sa buong carrying amount ng remaining asset. Same lang din ang computation dito kay building. Same lang din kay building at same lang din kay furniture and fixture. So, na-compute na natin. Lalabas na dyan yung ayan, yung allocated amount So, ganun lang siya kadali. Pero, sa una, mahihirapan ka talaga. Pero, kapag inintindi mo naman at kapag inaral ng maigi, masasagutan mo naman siya. Kailangan lang is intindihin ng mabuti yung problem, alamin kung ano na yung mga hindi kasama dun sa dito sa step 6, and kailangan din is bago tayo magtuloy dito sa impairment of CGU, alam na natin paano kumuha ng impairment, alam na natin dapat paano kumuha ng recoverable amount, paano i-compare yung fair value less cost of disposal sa value in use, so that alam na natin yung mga yun. Kaya nga yung reversal of impairment loss at yung impairment ng CGU is pang-last siya, kasi inuna mo na i-discuss yung pagkuha ng impairment at pagkuha ng new depreciation din. Kagaya kanina dun sa gain on reversal, di ba may new depreciation? So, madami siya, mahaba siya, pero kapag inaral talaga ng maigi, is kakayanin naman. Next is, yun, sagutan na natin yung problem, yung mga tanong kanina sa problem. Ayan. So, first is how much is the impairment loss that should be allocated to equipment. So, how much ngayon sa equipment? Ito yung obviously impaired. Yan. So, ayan. Obviously impaired. 100,000. Kaya ang answer natin dito sa number 1 is letter D, 100,000. Next is how much impairment loss that should be allocated to furnitures and fixtures naman. Ito lang, kakakompute lang natin. 504,000. Ang answer sa number 2 is 504,000. So that is the end, and thank you guys for listening.